Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
If I can just say, Dr. Conway, welcome, Mr. Burt, Madam Chair, and all the board members here, thank you very much for coming to Vernon Middle School tonight. We're lucky enough to have some of our sixth graders here. These were selected by our teams. They've made a great transition to the middle school. They were selected to come to the board meeting tonight just to help us with the pledge to open up the board meeting tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sam Wheeler, Austin Tracy, Abby Bates, Logan Santos, Allie Bloom, Charlie Bannon, Emily Guerrero, and Leah Mullet, all our sixth graders selected by their team. Thank you guys for coming. And if we can help right now, just with the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I also, if we could, Mrs. Fisher, Madam Chair, can you come over just for 1 second? You notice all our students here have shirts on from Vernon Middle School, if you give them. And if you notice on the back, we want you to have one. It says, I belong in the middle. So, all our students are wearing those tonight. We wanted you to have one. Welcome. And we're glad to see you wearing that when I see you out on the trails.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Thank you guys very much and welcome.
Thank you. That was wonderful. New t-shirt. This is great. I'd like to start the meeting by first of all welcoming our new board member, Mrs. Thomasina Russell. We're very excited to have you here with us, and you come with lots of experience, not only from being on the Board of Ed in the past, but also on the Town Council. So we thank you very much. And at the same time, I'd like to thank Mr. Boutar for his many, many years of service. We will miss him, and we wish him all the best. And we just know that Tommy's going to do a good job taking his place. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 1.0. Does anyone want to make a motion? Mrs. Bush.
So moved.
Is there a second? Mr. Kalina. Would anyone like to pull any of the agenda items? Mrs. Arden.
A, please.
Anyone else? Okay, so we'll vote on items B, C, D, E, F, and G. All those in favor? Anyone? You will abstain, okay. Then the motion carries. Now on to A. Mrs. Arden.
It's really just a typo on page 1.1A. It's Mr. Johnson, it's not Mrs. Johnson. Okay.
I have another one on that one also on page 2. It talked about the bronze status from the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. And it didn't say what school won that, and it's Skinner Road School, so I just wanted to give them credit for that. Okay, Mr. Bull.
Motion to approve that minutes as amended.
Is there a second? Mr. Kemp? All those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Move on to item 2.0, Secretary's Report. Opportunity for the Board of Education to add or delete agenda items. Mr. Holt.
I'd like to add item 4.2, update on Northwest Evaluation Association.
Is there a second on that? Mrs. Bush?
Second.
Any comments, questions, concerns? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Any others? Mr. Holt.
I'd like to add item 5.5A, approval of Vernon School Administrator Association contract, and I anticipate executive session for that.
Is there a second on that? Mrs. Bush?
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Any other items to be added to the agenda this evening? Or deleted, I should say. Okay, we'll move on to item 2.0, Rockville High School Student Representative. Dr. Conway.
Thank you very much. Before our representatives speak, we do have our new board representative for this year. Tyler Johnson is a senior at Rockville High School. Mr. Rocket indicates that he's a wonderful student who is well respected by his peers and he leads by example. He's interested in a career in criminal justice. He and I just spoke about that a little while ago, so I'm very excited about his application process for college right now. He has worked at Northeast School through Parks and Recs with Parks and Recreation Department, helping students in the after-school program with homework and appropriate behavior as a role model. He's the captain of the varsity basketball team, a member of the National Honor Society, and his favorite courses right now, I've been told, are law and order and psychology. So he's well into the social studies department, and those will serve him well in his chosen career. So welcome, Tyler. Thank you for coming.
Welcome, Tyler. Who would like to go first?
I
Aaron?
guess I'm going first. So tonight I'm going to talk about a few updates. With the new classes that started this year at Rockville, I'm not entirely sure on what all of them are, but as to the ones I do know, I think they're running very smoothly and have been well received. I'm in publications, which is a new class, and so far has gone swimmingly, no real problems, and we're figuring it together.
Thank you.
I had more.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just told my mic was not loud enough.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Another update on the elementary school that is adjointed to the History Hall. It is much better this year than it was last year. It's still occasionally disruptive, but it is manageable and overall much better than it was last year. And just update that some of us, the three of us that are doing the Goodwin College Senior Academy program have been going pretty much nonstop for a while now with lots and lots of work, but we seem to be managing it well, so I think it's going to end up well for the most of us.
About the National Honor Society, we're kind of getting started with things. We've recently begun tutoring, and so each student has a mandatory 10 hours that they have to tutor. It can be either individual or with a class. For example, I'm tutoring an Algebra 1 class for students who have failed math all 3 years and need this class to graduate. And we're also beginning to start our fundraising, and we're selling coupon books that the money received will go to fund our chapter projects, which are different community service projects throughout the area.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Aaron or Tyler? Well, thank you again, and welcome. Mrs. Arndt, I'm sorry.
This Tyler's tutoring students who are in a math class. They failed 3 years, or they failed that one class 3 times, or they help me understand that.
Well, it's an Algebra 1 class, so most of these students need this class to graduate.
Okay.
Or have not passed a math class since they've been in high school. And the way it works is most of our classes are every other day, but these students take the same math class every single day to make up, so they can take 2 courses in 1 year in order to receive the amounts that they need to graduate.
Thanks, Tyler.
Does anybody else have any questions? Mrs. Russell?
Is this the first year?
With this class?
Yes.
I'm not sure about the first year. This is the first I've ever heard about a class like this.
Thank you.
I have a question for Aaron. What courses are you taking at Goodwin College?
At Goodwin, I am taking the college experience class, which from what I understand is a mandatory class at all colleges right now. I'm taking Intro to Criminal Justice. Next semester I'll be taking Intro to Psychology and American History through the 1960s through 1980s, I believe. And I know one of the other students is taking an English 101 class there, and another one is taking a math class, so we have a fair wide range of people taking different types of classes.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, thank you both very much, and welcome, Tyler. We'll move on to item 3.0, Community Forum. opportunity for comments on agenda items, potential future agenda items, or general information provided to the board from citizens and community organizations. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Please state your name and address.
You don't know.
Yeah, I.
Good evening. Lori Bajorek. I live at 60 Patricia Drive. And I have two things tonight. The first one, I wanted to start off with something positive. I am a new 6th grade parent here at VCMS, and I attended the open house last week. And I wanted to just say thank you to Mr. Harrison. For the format, we started the evening with about 20-25 minutes in here with him, just welcoming us to the middle school, and this is how things work, and he has an open door policy, and he even mentioned that he's looking for some good grades on the school climate survey, so please feel free to bring anything to him at any time. And then we followed the rest of the evening. The format was to, we actually followed our student schedule. We only got 8 minutes with each teacher, but being in middle school, they have several teachers, and as Mr. Harrison had said that night, we would have been here till 10:30 if we spent more time. So I just wanted to say thank you. That was a great evening. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is, I hate to say anything before I've heard all the details, but I had one concern on the district improvement plan that's going to be discussed tonight. And under Board of Ed goal number 3, to promote safe environments that are socially, emotionally, and physically conducive to learning. The objective is to ensure that all students are safe and supported in their learning at school. The one issue on here that raises some concern for me is an indicator of success being to reduce office referrals by 10% in each school. And I'm hoping when we hear what the intention is behind this and how this is going to be addressed, is that the disruptive behavior is actually going to be cut back, whether it's, other positive behavior reinforcements or more support from support staff in school. As a parent, I have concerns that reducing office referrals by 10% just means that we send students to the office 10% less. But yet it's still a more disruptive environment for my student or any other, the majority of students. And then therefore it's socially, emotionally, and physically affecting their ability to learn. Because that tends to be the big thing that parents complain about a lot, is the disruption in their classrooms. So I am interested in hearing how the board plans and the schools plan on addressing that issue. That's it.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board this evening? Okay, we will move on to item 4.0. 4.1, update on administrator evaluation plan. Dr. Helms.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Fisher. Our administrators union is meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, the 23rd, so there's no update in terms of that. But I would like to reiterate the options. The state does have 4 buckets that a teacher must be placed into. One is below standard, one is developing, one is proficient, and one is exemplary. By any names, their buckets are worth 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so the district needs to determine how they're going to place teachers that don't fall into one of those exact numbers, one of those whole numbers, into the buckets. So this would be a decision rule. So if you're a 2.5, is the board saying that rounds up to a 3 or rounds down to a 2? Or is there another decision-making rule? And so those were the 3 ideas we presented at the last meeting, and it must have been at the last meeting. And those ideas were the round up, the round down. Right now, the state model does round up. They're finding our discussion here very interesting, and they're watching us very carefully to see what we do, because we're already on the radar with our teacher plan. Mr. Burt has been invited to speak all over at big places in the state. He's not too excited, but it's because of the unique way we have developed our teacher plan, the metric for our teacher plan. So again, the rule for when you have a 2.5 or 3.5 or 1.5, and those are the only options. There are no other fractions that are possible with the numbers that we're allowed. Then where do you go with that? One of the things that we offered the board was the decision rule of student achievement would outweigh teacher practice. So if the 3 was student achievement and the 2 was teacher practice, it would round out to a 2, and the other way around. If the 2 was student achievement, in other words, students were not achieving at high levels, and the 3 was teacher practice, so even though they could practice okay, it wasn't turning out that they were able to achieve, then it would round down. So that was one of the options we gave. I know the administrators are talking about it tomorrow, as they said, and so we'll have some feedback there. I would ask at the next meeting, which is the 14th, I will certainly, after the administrators speak, I'll send you whatever they've talked about, their ideas. But at the 14th, we'll offer you some ideas, and we'll need to approve some kind of a plan, whether it is up to the board. We just have to have input from the administrators, which we'll be getting tomorrow. So we don't have any real news, at least about what other people have spoken about. So I've just reminded you of where the conversation was and what we need to do. And I would ask that that be on the agenda on the Tuesday the 14th when we're back at the board office. Mrs. Bush.
One question I have is, what happens if the administrator does not directly work with a group of students or within a school? How can that be the case for something like that?
The state has been working on how to do that, and we have several methods that are not tried yet. We plan on using them. We did share, they came in this summer, what you would do with a special ed supervisor, an athletic director, all of those roles, the curriculum person. And so they do have them, and they're tied very closely still to student achievement. So for a special education supervisor, it might be with a group of students at a particular grade level. And so that person would have to be meeting with those teachers and align their goals to what's going on in that grade level. So they were a little out of the box thinking kinds of ideas, but at least it did connect everything to both practice and to student achievement, which is tough to do when you're in central office doing curriculum. You're right. But untried at this point across the state.
Mr. Kim.
Well, I'm surprised as Vernon is the only board of ed, or maybe one of the few, that is objecting to any rounding in either direction. But I think we remain firm. I don't want us to round up. I don't want us to round down. If somebody ends up with a 2.4, that's what they get. Now, what you just mentioned is why I'm asking this question now. You said that there's something about, you referred to not any other fraction.
That's correct. You would not be able to get a 2.4.
Why not?
If you take an odd number and divide it by 2, you're going to get a half.
Okay. I don't know who gets to go to speak to the state people. I volunteer to go on behalf of this board. Whatever the mix of 40%, 30%, 5% parent input, whatever they spent months coming up with, at the end of the computation, you end up with a score. And it can be a fraction as far as I'm concerned. If it's 2.4, that's it. That's the bucket you're in. And there is no other conversation. I don't think we're prepared to approve any plan that allows for any rounding in any direction, up, down, or sideways. I don't know why there should be. If the state insists on a plan, let them dictate it. But they are not going to get the approval of this local board, I don't think, of anything that includes any form of rounding or disallows any fraction. I don't see what is the matter with the 2.5 or 3 3/4 or anything like that. You would end up in the range that particular quadrille called for. That's it. I don't know why this is so hard. I just think there were some rules put in place that nobody got down to the board level at least at this one, and exposed those elements such that we understood them when we were first presented them. And now that they're rolling out, we're objecting. And I just can't understand why this is so hard to fix. I really can't. Thank you.
Mr. Stanton?
Yeah, just to echo what Mr. Kemp said, if the state wanted a system that didn't allow for fractions, they could have created one. I mean, they could have created a whole number system somehow that would not have had any type of fraction in it. They didn't do that, and as I said last meeting, in my opinion, a 2.5 is a 2.5. I think it's the real number, not something that we're hiding by rounding up or down. And I don't feel that rounding is necessarily fair either direction. So I would have to echo Mr. Kemp's statement.
Mrs. Bush?
We did it with the teacher evaluation plan. Why can't we model what we did exactly with the teacher evaluation plan to make it similar? I think it would be fair if the teachers and the administrators were handled the same way.
Mr. Burke?
Well, I have to say that we agree with the general sentiment of the board that it is a flawed system. Just a few points, if you will. In terms of reporting out, I had to fill in a state report, and it's whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's what we have to report out to the state. There's no room for me putting in a fraction. And that's basically the categories, you know, below standard, developing, proficient, exemplary, etc. So, and to the point of trying to fix the existing plan, we spent about 10 days trying to shoehorn some different logic into the existing plan to get us to a point where we could accept a fraction or we could make some sort of judgments based on different weightings. And we can't, which is what we discovered with the teacher plan. You couldn't do it with the metrics created by the state and their formulas and their weighting. So we can't, because the basic part of the plan doesn't allow for us to change their calculus. So that's the bottom line. We can't really move things around. We have to start from scratch, essentially. And again, but the point being, we're mid-September. We have folks that need to get started on this. We need to meet with our administrators. When we start talking about evaluations, it's the point where we're getting past the point of no return here in terms of getting a plan in place. And the state did say we do have to have a plan in place for us to evaluate our administrators. And remind the board that the teacher one, which I agree is a better plan, it took us a long time to get to that point. And in terms of Ms. Bush's position of trying to take the teacher plan, there's a number of differences that would make that difficult to do in a very quick manner. Over time, we could obviously do that because there's a number of different indicators than there are for the teachers. We have to take a look at all the different processes associated with coming up with the different scores, etc. And that takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. And you can't just take the teacher plan and move it into the administrator category. So we agree. You're not getting an argument from us, but I have to go with our recommendation that if we can come up with a compromise that will get us closer to a realistic reading from the measurements that we can get from the existing plan, I would recommend that we do that. Because there's just no way, you know, at 2.4 we have to do something with that because we have to report full numbers. We have to give them a rating of, you know, developing in that case. So we do have to move in that direction. You know, we do round up, you know, an 89.5 is an A- in the classroom. You know, there's times where we have to round up or round down. So those are the cases we have to do.
Since there is no wiggle room at all and you have to report in whole numbers, is it possible to report in whole numbers, yet we understand that we have a system that, to be used within Vernon to evaluate, that will comply with the state, but we're going to do an evaluation that is a 2.4, for instance, and however you decide to round it up or round it down, send the state the whole number to fulfill the requirement. But in Vernon, we know that certain person, administrator, is a 2.4 and is not proficient. Is that another way to do it?
Absolutely, that is a possibility. depending
So
on how get to the
we
next
can't change the state, so we can play their game, give them a whole number, but maintain a system of evaluation that gives us a truer picture of the state.
If I may, going back to Dr. Conway's point, the way the formulas work, it gives us a round number because of the, say, 45%, 5% in the evaluation, or the 40 and 10. The way it works is that they use some weighting systems, and it gives you a number, say 127. That number is then judged by a range. The range from 120 to 150 is rated proficient or a 3. So there, again, we have to go all the way back to the beginning to say this formula doesn't work, and the weighting system, and then it gives you a range like the SAT, or it gives you a range like the AP exam. You know, this gives you a range for those scores, giving you that result. It doesn't say if 127 is different than a 137, because it's within the same range. So we did look at those numbers. We did look at the calculus. We did try to find a way to make sense of it, but it doesn't work.
May I ask you a question? Through the chair. Do you think that there is a way to come up with a system that accurately and fairly evaluates an administrator?
Oh, absolutely. I just don't think we can do it in the next 2 weeks.
May I ask why?
Because we'd have to go all the way back from the beginning and start and take a look at every system that's in place. You know, there's a number of different things weighted into that. How do we come up with that final rating, et cetera? And then also the amount of time we have to get to the state to get the waivers, et cetera. You know, it took us 4 months with negotiations with the states and multiple meetings going to Hartford just to get our teacher plan approved.
So if they know what we're considering and discussing, there isn't I know that you want to get this process started for the administrators as well, I understand that. I'm going back to a comment that the board made, which was we'd rather do nothing than do something wrong. So is that a possibility or no? We have to do something.
Again, I'm just going to give you my recommendation. I would, again, we agree with you in the sense that it's not a great system, but a compromise would be, can we find a way that gives more weight to one area of the formula than another, which is what we've proposed, and and worked with the administrators union, and we feel that does help us move in the direction of more of a logical conclusion to the weightings that we're going to receive out of the formulas.
So whatever compromise you come up with this year, we may be forced to approve it, but say, this isn't good enough for next year. We want you to continue to adjust and change until we get to a plan that does make everyone comfortable?
Right now we're looking at, how can we move forward from this and really generate the best plan possible and get a committee together of district folks in the administrators union and really take a look at everything and come up with something that's equitable and really gives us that fair rating, but an accurate rating. And I think that's the best process, is to take time, really analyze the materials that are in front of us. What do we really value here in Vernon? We were able to do that through our evaluation plan. We worked with the teachers union, with the evaluation committee, with the administrators, and we came up with a plan that really worked for everybody, and we feel holds people accountable. But again, that process took a long time with a lot of different input, and I would recommend we start that process now, but it's going to take some time.
We're not a business, but I got to echo David's sentiment that I just don't understand why this is so hard.
Well, it sounds to me like we have to approve something soon, or else you can't start evaluating the administrators, correct? That's correct. So, I mean, I don't like it either, but maybe knowing that it will be different for the next year is the only consolation, which isn't much. Mr. Kemp?
Well, with all due respect to the state and these people are our employees. They're not employees of the state of Connecticut. We will evaluate them. And frankly, as we see fit, if it is a formula that we should have understood differently, that's our fault. But at the end, when we unravel some of the, I'll call them poison pills in there, still, that doesn't mean we have to move forward with it. I am not going to approve something that I'm not comfortable with. If they wish to have our people evaluated under some state mandated formula, that may have to happen, but it is not necessarily going to get this Board of Ed's approval. And I don't think that we should be forced to approve anything that we're not comfortable with. I'd really like to know who by name these people are at the state. I'll go in and talk to them myself, and we're certainly going to talk to them at the CAVE convention, because they will be there, and as many Vernon board members who can possibly make the CAVE convention in November darn well better be in front of the State Board of Ed when that opportunity arrives, and that's just a few weeks from now.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you. We will move on to... Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay. What, to Mr. Burke, through Mrs. Fisher, what if the board says no to the plan that you come back on? Just help me understand, Mr. Burke, what happens after that? If we follow David's lead and say, no, we're not going to approve anything less than what we want to have happen, what happens?
I will defer to Dr. Conway on that one.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Burke.
You're welcome.
Ms. Arndt, I have to certify every year that we have followed every state statute and mandate that the Vernon Board of Education and Vernon Public Schools has done that, and I will not be able to do that.
So it's simply saying, no, we didn't do that.
Pardon, I can't say that to the board, to the State Board of Education. Well,
You can't
I
say
could
what?
say that. I could say that, but then we would not be following the law.
And? Well, I just wonder if...
I honestly don't know. It's possible we could lose our ECS funding. Who knows? Could be anything.
I'm just trying to follow it through, because it feels rather, we're being told what we must do without an option or a time to accomplish something that we'd like to accomplish. I mean, I'm just trying to follow through okay, so we have to do it, but what's the threat if we don't? Just want to understand that. I'm not suggesting we do something to lose money or anything. I just want to know what happened.
Could I just make two very quick comments? Thank you. One is that we do have to have an evaluation system. We have had the option for 2 years of creating our own evaluation system. We spent all of our time working on the teachers. There's obviously more leverage with the teachers. They're closest to the kids. We want that system to be perfect. We planned on this year fixing the administrator evaluation plan going forward. So we have had the option of doing what we want, what the board wants, and I'm sure we're going to, over the course of this next year, come up with a plan that the board will applaud and I think is fair and a growth model and will be very good for all of our students. And I've forgotten my second point. So, I'm sorry.
I'll give her a second to think of her second point. I just wanted to ask you a real quick question here. If this board were to approve a plan that the administrators did not approve of or did not come to the table and be in agreement with, let's say we decide that we want to truncate the point whatever off and use just the whole number, ignore the point, because I think rounding down is on the side of caution. We now comply with the state.
That's correct.
So you can check off that we've complied with the state. what happens to us with the union at that point in time?
The union must have input into the plan, and that's why I'm waiting to hear from them tomorrow. I will bring forward whatever their ideas are to the board, and the board does get to choose. It is the board that approves the plan, not the administrators. They have to be at the table in the development of the plan.
Anyone else at this point in time? Tell we'll have more discussion in October on this. Okay. Okay, let's move on to item 4.2, the Northwest Evaluation Association. Mr. Hurt.
Thank you, through the chair. We just wanted to give you an update in your packet that you received tonight. In your yellow folders, there is a 6-page handout on the MAP, which is the Measures of Academic Progress, and then on page 7 at the end there is the MPG, or the MAP for primary grades. As you recall in our discussions back when we were doing the Alliance grant budget, we said that we were going to purchase an assessment system rather than trying to create all of our own assessments, that we really wanted something that was accurate and timely, and that we would be able to track online. We went to a web-based system, and we put out an RFP back in the spring, went through a process and had a number of vendors propose their solution to our request, and through the process we ended up with NWEA as our solution for this process. And in discussion with them, this was late spring when we made the decision, in the discussion with them and also realizing that we were instituting a new student management system, which is Aspen, which I'm sure you've heard of, that was a lot to take on. The new teacher evaluation system, moving to a new student management system, that was a tremendous amount of work, along with all the curriculum work and some of the other pieces that were put in place this summer. We felt that we really needed to have time to get those pieces in place before we embarked on this training. The requirement of NWA is that we provide our teachers with 6 hours of training before we even administer the first test. And then after the administration of the first assessment, we have another 6 hours of training. Now, the training is not, this is how you log kids in and this is how you get scores. It's all about how do you interpret data, how do you use data, how do you change your instruction, how do you differentiate your instruction, how do you address the needs of individual students, which is exactly the direction we want to go. So the plan was to fit in that 6 hours that we were going to be using election day PD. And so would that actually fit in well with our schedule for moving to Aspen and moving to our new curriculum? And we were then able to give the first iteration of the assessment in mid-November through mid-December. Then we would have, in our February full-day release, we would then be able to take the real live data from our students and have teachers work with it, crunch it, and talk about it, and talk about how to change their instruction. And then we'd give the second iteration of this in late spring. We're looking at a window probably end of May. That'll be the first 2 times. Next year we'll give it 3 times. Once we get through this training, it'll be a little bit easier. It's all online. It's you can spread out the assessments over time if you want to for your own class. You don't have to hit children day after day after day with the assessments. And we are cognizant of the fact that, yes, perhaps we have to be careful of not assessing our students too much, but the purpose of this, and if obviously you haven't had a chance to read through this, but you can see when you talk about it on page 4, that we can use this data for a lot of different pieces. And in particular, we're going to be replacing our universal screeners in math and ELA. And what does that mean? It means that right now, as you know, we're getting a report out for our district data for the F&P at the elementary level. That is our universal screener essentially for our younger students, and we will replace that. We're not going to just get rid of the F&P. That would be used as a secondary level when we do find students that don't meet a certain cut score, for instance. Let's say the 10% of students that didn't meet what we thought were expectations. We would use other assessments that we currently have as secondary screeners to help us give us insight into the needs of those students. And as well, we also have other assessments that are not as burdensome. We are developing unit assessments for our curriculum-based measures and for our curriculum-based report card, our standards-based report card. Those are going to be, just part of the regular instruction. You wouldn't stop and, okay, we're going to take a pencil and paper test. It's more based on the curriculum. It's more backwards planning to make sure that we are bookending our units. So we have a pre-assessment, these are the skills and knowledge that we want students to know and be able to do. At the end of the unit, do our students make that, and do we need to do any remediation for any of our students? So this is another tool, but we find that it's going to be very useful. The level of information we can glean from this, down to the question stem level, is incredible. You can group students in this program. The teachers will have access to their information that night in many cases, if not by the next day, within 24 hours. So it's all right at their hands. They don't have to do any of the grading, which is, as you know, if you're ever given the FNP, it does take a long time to give this to a class, and it takes time from your instruction. So hopeful that these assessments will give us more information with less time, and give us a standard practice across the district. One of the best parts about this is that the test has remained, the measurement has remained the same over the past 30 years. They use different questions, obviously, over time, but they've had a scale score for the past 30 years. This is a national company. It has thousands and hundreds of thousands of data points from students from across the country and across the world, actually. So they're able to give us accurate data down into the, you can see it on page 5, an example of what the Lexile rating, for instance, is one indicator of their reading ability. So we're able to take that information and then year after year be able to accurately chart progress for these students. It's similar, if you're familiar with the CMT, the vertical scale score, although I found some flaws with the vertical scale score myself, especially in the language arts one, but this now will give us a clear picture of where students are time after time after time after time, especially if we hold on to this assessment over a period of years. When I gave my presentation on the Common Core, one of the criticisms of the SBAC is that the original intent was that the test was supposed to be, any level, you could hit any range within that, but they've limited that to, I believe, a half a grade above and half a grade below. So if you're in 5th grade, the assessment questions will only go up to, the next grade about halfway through the year and down through the half year. This is truly adaptive. So if you're in 8th grade, the questions will go down to 3rd grade if that's your ability level. There's one little bit of hiccup with that in the sense that there is the MPG, which is again on that page 7, which is more of a conducive test for K through 2 students. The interface is a lot more attractive, it's a lot more appealing to students, and they acknowledge the fact that they may not have good, more motor skills. It's better on we have iPads that we've been recently purchasing through the Alliance grant, and that they'll have that touchscreen capability to it's a lot more picture-oriented rather than really text-based, especially in the kindergarten. So that's adaptive within K2. But you can get levels in the other one down through K. It's just the test questions won't be adaptive down to K. In other words, you'll still get, if you're in 8th grade, you'll get 8th grade level questions, but it'll give you a reading down through kindergarten of your ability levels, if that makes sense. So we are looking forward to this. We didn't want to overwhelm folks with this, again, our teachers or our parents or our students. The plan is that once we got through Aspen, we're still, working out some of the kinks as you implement a brand new system. We're working through those processes. But the plan was in October to start really advertising this, if you will, discussing this with teachers, administrators, and obviously with parents and students to let them know this is coming. So that's the overview, and I'm open to any questions you may have right now.
Mr. Stanley.
Excuse me.
Through you, Madam Chair. 2 questions. The first on the adaptive testing, you mentioned adapting down. Does it also adapt up?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, up through, I believe, sophomore year in college is what I was told.
Thank you. And the second question is, you mentioned taking this perhaps in later May, and you also mentioned the CMTs, and you talked about over-testing our children. Isn't that timing maybe a little unfortunate?
We are looking at that. We'll make sure that we don't overwhelm them, with the SBAC going in right at that time, SBAC and the CMT and the science, obviously. And, remember also, we are currently testing the students in spring. We were doing FMPs up and through June 10th last year, and teachers were trying to get those done and trying to get those into our system to make sure that we could report those out. The flexibility of this is that we can open a large window, and it's a very short time frame. Excuse me. For our 3rd through 9th grade, it's an hour per test, but that includes sitting down, logging in, wrapping everything up, checking your work, etc. So that's front time frame to time frame. K through 2, it's 45 minutes. So that, again, that's sitting down, logging in, making sure everyone's there. start the test, wrap it up, log out. So that's, you can imagine, with the assessments we currently have, it fits into that same time frame.
Mrs. Bush?
Are there online tutorials that would be available to the teachers in lieu of a sit-down training for 6 hours? Because we implemented a new universal assessment, and we, on our own time or within our data teams or whatever, are watching tutorial videos that are very helpful, which allowed us to start our assessments beginning of the year, and we're able to get all 3 in. So we don't have to wait until we could sit down for a long PD and slow it down a little. Is that available?
There are support videos, but the recommendation from the company, which I would hold on to as well, is that it's an interactive training. It's not a sit and get for 6 hours. They really want you learning the system, learning to use the system, but most importantly for us, which is one of our big issues or goals, really is to say, how does this change my practice and interact with students and make sure that I know my student and I know their ability levels, and then I'm able to adapt my teaching to to their needs. That's the focus. That's one of the main reasons we went with this product, was that it wasn't just, here's the assessment, get it back, and then thank you, what do I do now? Their emphasis and their mantra really is assessment for the purpose of instruction, which is exactly what, if you read any kind of research, you just don't assess students. You have to use that information to better your practice, which is exactly where we're going. And we really were pleased with that. And to have trained folks come in and work with our teachers for 6 hours on exactly that, that's incredible PD in our mind. And then the second iteration of it in February, they're using their students' information, and they're going to be working in grade level teams, and they can talk about how they're going to change that. They can look at our curriculum, how they're going to adapt curricular activities, lesson plans, etc., to the needs of their students. So I see it as a benefit rather than as a burden.
The progress monitor on this program, what is the depth of that?
Thank you through the chair. This is not a progress monitoring tool. This is a screening tool. There are other products out there that can do that, but again, they're very expensive. We had one vendor present that to us, and we were shocked at the price and that any district could afford it. But what we are looking to do is that, again, through those, we identify a small group of students that need that intervention through our SRBI process. We're exploring options within Aspen to be able to track that information in Aspen. A side note also is that most of this granular level data will live in the NWA server base, but we will pull out the summative information, the big pieces, if you will, and we will put those in Aspen as well. So when you call the student in Aspen, look at their assessment history, you'll be able to get a clear picture of all the different assessments. But most of the major heavy-duty hitting will be done in their system.
You were saying the assessment could take up to 45 minutes to actually get the kids through it. Can that be broken down for some of the younger students so that they're not, there'd be fatigue and stuff like that when you go through something like that. Talking to a person who's been going through this right now, it's important to break it down for the younger ones.
Thank you through the chair. That is an excellent question. There are embedded breaks in there as well, so that's part of the process. And my understanding is that you can stop the assessment and then pick it up later. So if we do have students that need to take a break, we can pick it up later. They'll each have a unique login and ID for that process.
Any other questions, Mrs. Arden?
We knew this was coming, Mr. Burke. I would have appreciated having the information in advance so I could have read and asked appropriate questions. So I'm hoping once I have a chance to do that you would take questions.
Absolutely. The plan was just to give this information, and I apologize for that, and I take responsibility for that. The plan was to get out the information in October. I didn't realize that the first meeting wasn't until, I think it's Tuesday, the 14th. I thought it was a week earlier, and I thought that was too close to the implementation date. So in speaking with Dr. Conway, I said, can we possibly squeeze it in on this this evening, and so that's why it's tonight, not earlier. I apologize.
No, I understand that. I just hope that once we've had a chance to read, and then we could give you a call with questions.
To the chair, if the board would like to add this as an agenda item on the 14th, I would be open to questions at that time if you have a chance to explore it. There's also, their website has a tremendous amount of information as well, so I recommend exploring that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 5.0, general business, 5.1, update on the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving Grant. This is our Dr. Conway.
I'll begin, and hopefully Ms. Arn will add some insight and make my speaking a little clearer. We were eligible and applied and received a planning grant from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving late in the spring. And we've met twice out of 3 times in colloquia to learn more about the partnership between school, family, and community. We're finding the reading, I think, very interesting. At least I am finding it very interesting. Our planning group actually expanded the last time we went into Hartford, which was a week ago last Friday. And we were able to add a second parent. Ms. Bajorek, who spoke earlier, is one of our parents. We have another parent, Crystal Munoz, who joined us, as well as Laura Corliss, who is our new family community liaison. She's one of our school psychologists, and she's being a liaison with the community this year. So in addition, we are the only of the 7 districts who are involved that does have a board member, so we're very, very grateful to have that support and the work of Ms. Arn on our committee as well. Mr. Alan Slobodine is on the committee, and Ms. Michelle Hill is on the committee. Michelle is with KidSafe and is also in charge of the implementation of our community plan. And Mr. Slobodine is the executive director of our Youth Service Bureau here in town. When we wrote the grant, one of the objectives or the intent was to build upon pre-existing district improvement plans and to strengthen family, community, and school partnerships. And we had a lot of discussion. We felt a little bit stuck at one point. The Hartford Foundation met with us, and so did one of their experts. And what's the name of their? Out of New York. Oh, this is awful. A wonderful organization out of New York who was sharing information with us and expertise and asking us the right questions so we could come to deciding what we needed to do. So a few weeks ago we decided what we really needed to do was update that community plan. The community plan has data from 2010. So this would be fresh data. We've been giving that data to Michelle Hill in her role, and she's been pulling that together. And then this committee of 8 people decided to meet weekly. So the committee met last Wednesday, just last Wednesday, and they decided that it was important at this point to continue to pull the data together, but then to enlist the aid of a person who would help facilitate the work, just the planning work. And that was what was in the original grant, was a facilitator to pull together the data, to make it make sense, and to help this committee or anyone else who's interested come to what the plan should be. Because as I said, this is a planning committee. It's very exciting, talking about what families can do to support their children, encourage their children, how the school can invite families and the community in. And I think we need to work on both pieces, the families and the community. And we have a lot to grow in both of those areas. As we look at the Lighthouse District data in a few minutes, we'll see that as well. So I think that's where we are right now. We're not meeting this Wednesday. I think we're meeting next Wednesday, the 1st or 2nd. And we're truly looking to see how can we build these partnerships and relationships. And there is research out there, and there are ideas out there, and we're just not the experts, and we need someone to help us along. But I think that this is a huge lever for us here in Vernon to involve families and community, and in different ways, in ways that we've never done before. And so we've got a lot of learning to do. And Ms. Arndt, do you want to add to that? please.
Only that there are 7 school districts represented there, and it's been, just listening to them has been an experience in itself, never mind what we're trying to do, but to hear what's going on around us, and their ideas are inspiring to the rest of us. And being able to partnership with the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving is really a privilege. They are committed to making a difference, and they committed excellent personnel and time, not just their money, but they've always been available. And I think it really is something to be grateful for and excited about, and then to know that we have all of the pieces. That was an eye-opener for me. We have all of the pieces. We haven't been able to figure out how to pull them together, and the dollars from the Hartford Foundation will fund a consultant who my thought is will help us execute those pieces the best way we can. But it's nice to know that we aren't starting at square one, that we have what we need. We just need to figure out the best way to implement it.
Sounds good. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Colino?
It certainly would appear that we have quite a bit of work to do, because looking at the attendance of the meeting here for the folks that come to visit us as we come out to visit them at VCMS, I see there's a lot more probably parents doing line dancing out in the cafeteria than we have visiting us today. And I think that's an important statement that, we're trying to reach out and we're having limited success, and we only have a couple parents in the audience right now. So I think any help in that area certainly is appreciated and could be very well used on our part.
Mrs. Russell?
I just have a statement, and I just want to commend.
Very close.
I just have a statement. I just want to commend our board for doing this. If anyone knows me, knows that I believe in parents and community combining with education. So to take this step, as you said, and you look around, and I said that when I first got here, there's only 2 parents here. We need to do better. We need to find a way of doing something that will pull parents and the community in to understand what education is all about. Thank you.
Well, and I thank you for, Mrs. R too, for taking the time to serve on this committee, as Dr. Conway, because I know it takes a lot of time out of your regular schedule.
That's actually what I wanted to comment on, that there are no other towns that have a board member serving, and those other towns and the Hartford Foundation thought that that was a big deal, which to me was, I asked Mary if I could please be on it through you, but could I please be on this committee? And I was surprised that there are no other, not one board member represented in it. So I think it's good that we can hear this. I don't know, I just think it's a good thing. I think it makes a statement to the foundation as well, that although I don't speak for the board by any means, but they see that as a supportive board, involved board. So I think it's just a good thing to have somebody else.
I also want to thank all the parents and Alan Slobodine and Michelle Hill giving their time to
Nicole Philly and our grant writers there as well.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, well, thank you. We look forward to hearing more. All right, we'll move on to item 5.2, District Improvement Plan.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Fisher. We have the first draft of the District Improvement Plan. I'm hoping that you'll be able to approve it on the 14th. That gives us a few more weeks here because we have an extra week before the board meeting. We were looking at goal number 1. We, as an administrative team, believe that the 3 goals, we worked on this in August and then again in September. We believe the board's 3 goals have not yet been met and still need to be our goals. Building and improving relationships and partnerships with family and community, etc. The objectives and the strategies we're changing just a little bit each time, I think, and going with the discussion we just had. The last plan was about bringing parents in and having activities for parents, etc. This is a little bit different. We're talking about ongoing communication, which was certainly part of our last plan. But we're also talking about developing and implementing strategies to further engage parents in the community. We don't know what that is yet, so it's going to be ongoing. We have a few strategies listed, but we're still learning on how to do that. So last time we talked about developing the school governance councils. Well, we've done that. They're not going away, they're there, they're going to get better, but that's not a new strategy. We need to build on that and move to the next level. We also were looking at some of the survey questions. I feel welcome at my child's school. Several schools did community welcoming walkthroughs in their building to see if they were a welcoming school, and then my child's school communicates with me. So there were several things that we looked at. We also were talking about how we would possibly measure the public relations work that we've done and that communication. The communication from last year, Mrs. Buchanan is updating both the not the website, that's another person, but we have a website person. She's doing Twitter and Facebook and the good news of the week, and we make hard copies of that as well as electronic copies, put hard copies at the library, at the senior center. So there's a lot of communication one way going, and we need to explore ways how that can be two-way communication, how we can gather information. And so that's, so we're doing a lot in terms of that one-way communication. And then we do the coffee connections. We're doing that again this year. That's a little bit more two-way, although sometimes it turns into one-way. So goal one, we're trying to change the strategies a little bit and get a little deeper rather than just establish school governance councils, etc. We're trying to make them a little more deep, but at this point we're still learning what that is going to look like. Our indicators of success, we're not quite sure. We can measure the number of people who are involved. We can ask survey questions of does your house have a place for your child to do their homework, or have your child gone to homework club? I'm not sure what the survey questions will be. In board goal number 2, we did not change the goal at all, increase the achievement of every student through high quality curriculum instruction and assessment. The 3 objectives, we left the same as well. And then the strategies are a little bit different. Last time one of our strategies was to complete and implement curriculum in English language arts and then in mathematics. So we have left those 2, added science. As soon as I put this out as a draft to our administrators, I very quickly got an email from Mr. Sesta who said, well, the national standards have not yet been passed by the state of Connecticut, and so even though that's what we're writing our curriculum on, so we're not waiting in limbo, however. They're good standards. Our teachers believe in the standards. If we have to adjust later, we'll adjust later. We're not waiting. So we are moving ahead with that. And then we're just beginning the social studies curriculum revision. There'll be a lot of English language arts, a lot of writing and reading in that, but the content will be. And then implementing the assessments in grades 3 through 9. Our assessments, we do have them for younger children too, but at least in grades 3 through 9, those were important. It is completely aligned with the Common Core State Standards, so that's other information as we move to a standards-based report card, which is not this year, but that is in the future. We would like to do that, and so we will be needing to report out on children's achievement of the standards as well. In the indicators of success, some of them look the same, growth of 15% from the beginning to the end of the year. Now remember, the bar changes, so at the beginning and by the end of the year it changes 3 times for the 3 assessments. And so we are looking at growth. We don't expect only 20% of our children to be reading at grade level in the fall. 80% of them should be reading at grade level in the fall, so we need to continue to do that. We did write in your draft 15 percentage points. It's really over the 13-14 year end data. Remember, we took baseline data. Some of our grade levels did score about the 80% level. Some of them did not. They were low. They were maybe 40, 45%. And so for those lower ones, certainly we want a growth of at least 15%. But the other thing that we're doing is that we are creating those writing assessments. It was new last year, and so the writing assessments were not comparable over time. And the middle school is ahead of the curve on that. They have finished 4 assessments for each grade level. They have anchor sets. They're just moving along wonderfully, and the lower grades are there as well. The number of students completing Algebra 1, we went up to 73% this year. Mr. Rocket would like to take that to 80. That's aggressive. Once we've hit that 73 mark, I think that's great though. That's where we would like to be. English 9, we did have 90% of the grade level maintaining at passing rate on English 9, and we would like at least that to maintain that. And then part of this is really more of a strategy. It should be up top, but begin to review its achievement data of grade 10 and 11 on PSAT. The PSAT is not just those numbers that you get in the 3 sections of the test. There is a lot of deep data that you can get. We're just exploring that. Kim Meriden, the guidance counselor from the high school, did go to a workshop last year. She was so surprised and pleased at the amount of data she could cull from all of the scores from the students individually across classes, grade levels. And right now, all of our grade 10 students and all of our grade 11 students are taking the PSAT. And I think we're paying for grade 11, if I recall. Grade 10 was a gift from the Alliance District Grant, so from the state, and so all our grade 10 students get to take that. So that was another, we want to start looking at that, see what it tells us and what it tells us about how we're teaching. The last goal, promoting safe environments that are socially, emotionally conducive and physically conducive to learning. Again, we want all students to be supported in their learning at school. We are continuing to implement PBIS. That is we don't need to put that down as a strategy, but that is certainly the way it works. We just, as a slight aside, we had a teacher from another district. I'm trying to remember which school. Maybe I shouldn't tell. But we had a teacher from another district experienced who moved in to our school and wanted to use a deficit model with her students, because that's the way she always did it. You got a point for this and a point for that, etc. And her grade level partner said, "Oh, no, 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 that's not the way it works. We use PBIS, and students are, they're rewarded for doing the right thing, and they do the right thing all the time, and you teach and you reteach and make sure that their behavior and all the things that they're doing." And so the teacher knuckled under, and this is what, the third week of school, and there has been an incredible change in this teacher's classroom. The students are calm and happy, and it's just a totally different classroom. So PBIS is not going away. It's not the answer to everything. One of the things of reducing the office referrals, we have different numbers of office referrals in each classroom. The office referrals do originate in the classroom. And so this ties it back to, are we implementing PBIS with fidelity? Are we, reteaching when something goes wrong? Are we redoing the hallway rules or the gymnasium rules or the lavatory rules, whatever that is? So, we're putting that out there. I know that the schools have been looking at that for quite a while, and individually, when their school improvement plans come forward, which I'm hoping for the end of October, you will see that. They're working on them now based on the board's 3 original goals. Let's see. One of the strategies, conducting the regular check-in for the climate survey. I think I told you Dr. Pacell did this the year before last, and she had all of her students in grades 3, 4, and 5 respond to 3 very simple things. Students in my class treat me with respect. I like school, and a third one. And the students responded every month, and the teachers were very transparent with that data and very upset if the data dipped or skipped, and elated when it went up. And they made this a class project, each one of them individually, working with their classes to see how they could improve, what's going on in my classroom. It was wonderful. And it made a huge difference at Maple Street School. Had everyone ownership over what was going on. So my teacher cares for me. We just said increased by 5% over 13-14. And that was one, we had actually relatively high data for that this past year. overall. That was 72%. However, that was down from 74%. Hidden behind the 72% are some schools at 90% and some schools at 50%. And so if you can imagine 1 out of 2 kids doesn't believe their teacher cares for them, that's extremely concerning. And so the schools will be looking into that data, and on their improvement plans, you'll see what their marks are. But that's what we're looking for, is at least 5% overall movement. So, and this is a draft, a very simple draft. We've had 2 meetings on it. We want to continue with the 3 big board goals. We are interested in hearing specific objectives from the board and where you would like us to go if we haven't mentioned any of them. So we're ready to listen. Anybody have, Mr. Kemp?
Yes, and the second goal, the indicators of success, there are 5 bullets on the bottom of the page. The first 2 are of the subject of my question, and that is when the data is conveyed to the board, let's say a growth of 15% of students reading on grade. I want to make sure that we continue to report that to the board at the board level by school, not as an aggregate of all schools. Now, the last 3 bullets, they're middle school, so that isn't a question. But those first 2 bullets, these 15% improvements should be provided to us by school. And the second point I wanted to bring up actually is almost the same, well, it is the same that Lori brought up when she spoke to us earlier. The office referrals, as distinguished between special ed referrals. Okay, office referrals. I guess the question that I wrote down here is, what does each school consider grounds for a referral? And are figures for referrals tracked by grade or teacher or both? And I think that's the way we'd like to see it shared with us. And I'll just end by saying, and part of my question is really motivated by the last presentation by the 5 elementary teachers. Their presentations varied so greatly that I really want to make sure that there's a more consistent interpretation of what we'd like to see and how we'd like it, how we'd like to see it presented to us. And this would just be a small example of what I'm referring to. So will they be presented to us by grade and by teacher?
Yes, certainly we can do that. We do have that data available both by grade and by teacher. And we can do that with everything, with all the assessment data as well. That all comes out by grade and by teacher. The schools certainly, I generally do it by the district. It goes by the district, grade 3, grade 4, etc. And then each school provides their data by the teacher or by the grade level, so you would see that. If you want a comparison of all 5 elementaries, I can put that on one graph. That's not a problem as well. I've done a little bit of that, but we can go deeper into that. And we can certainly share the answers to the same questions. The schools do not have the same needs, just like our children. They do not have the same needs. So whereas we set a goal of 80% of our students will be performing well in writing, we have pockets of excellence around the district where students are already performing at 80% in writing. And so they are maintaining that, and they are working on other things. And they would like to report out on other things because they have worked on that. The same with the climate data. There are some schools that do not have a climate issue in a certain area and other schools that do, and they're working very hard on that, and they would like to share that. So that's one reason that all of the plans are not quite the same. They didn't look the same either, I agree, but they were sharing different data points because of their school improvement plans, which address different needs in the different buildings. So they did ask me to share that with you, so I'm glad that you asked that question. But they were very concerned that they had to be lockstep, one goal, one size fits all, and they said, but that wouldn't be my school. My school has this need, not this need, or we have both needs, or we have more need in this area, and so we need to set a goal in this area because we want to work in that area, and we want to show people that that it's important and that we are working towards that.
I'll accept that to a point, because each school is different. But I'll give you an example of what I'd like you to push back, right back, because it sounds to me like they really didn't like what I had to say. When we only saw one school give us any information back regarding the science, that's not a unique feature of that school. All 5 of them could have easily done that, but didn't. So inasmuch as each school may have varying needs, I understand that. On the other hand, they could have done a different job sharing with us than they did. So I'm pushing back. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Ard.
How many years have these goals been the same?
The board set the 3 goals in the winter of 2011, correct? The winter of 2011, so just 4 years. So they set the goals then and put them in, a little bit that spring, and then the first improvement plans were in the fall of 2011. So this would be the 4th year, right? When did they
When I look through the district improvement plan results for 2013-14, there are little pockets of brightness, but for the most part, goals weren't met, if I'm reading this correctly. Pick any one of the schools, and I also saw a difference, like the objective for goal 2 will be that students are reading in K through 3 will be reading at or above grade level, and then an indicator would be a growth of 15%. That didn't happen. One school chose their goal was going to be 80%, and I think that the system, we had said 85%, and they said 80% was successful. So I'm not understanding the discrepancies, which brings me to should the objectives be clearer, changed? One school reported that all students will show a gain of at least 1 point in their rubric score. That doesn't equate to what I read to be one of the indicators of success. Like, it doesn't translate for me. Did that happen in that school, or didn't it?
It wouldn't have been in the district plan, but in the school plans, they indicated the percent of students that did that. So if they had a 1, they got to a 2. If they had a 2, they got to a 3 or better. If they got a 3, they got to a 4. In terms of those, so our goal in writing was we would like the goal will be to have 85%. That's when you look at the population in general, it's possible that you could have 15% of your population in any particular subject, and not the same 15% of people, but who might struggle. Some of those would be identified under special education or IDEA. Others may have just takes me longer to learn math than the person next to me, but I'm great in reading or something like that. So the first year for writing, that's where we want. We said we wanted to set the goal of 85%. Where is it?
Could I ask you one question?
Yep.
Then if the district goal was 85% of students will be proficient, then this schools said 80% of the students will be on grade level. That's what I'm questioning, not so much whether they got there, but why is their goal different than the district goal?
Perhaps they were starting in a different place. And that's when you look at the results from last year, last year, calling my years, we're looking at a 15% increase, and over the previous year, for grade 3, they only achieved 49%, so we're looking at 64%. Grade 5 achieved 80. I don't think they're going to say 15% goal gain. They're going to change that. So those were all, that was our baseline data. We need to see where they are, make sure that our assessment's there. If you don't measure it, it doesn't get done. So we needed to do it. We needed to make sure we had baseline data, et cetera. If I could just make one comment, the growth of 15%, the kindergarten grew 69.5, grade 1 was 54.1, grade 2 was 33.9, and grade 3 was 20.2. So all 4 grade levels did meet that goal of growth of 15%.
But Dr. Conway, if we go school to school, in the detailed report that you gave us, there were many, many goals that were not met. Great that we did, but I'm the glass half empty person. And yes, there are successes, but they don't make up for where we didn't achieve what we need to achieve. And that the reporting is what concerns me. That's all. The reporting concerns me. We sent the reporting. I'm confused by the difference between our district goals and each school's goals. Are we ever going to get to 85% or more towards it?
Anyone else have any questions or comments? Mr. Gould.
Just had a comment on board goal number 1 and the strategy section there particularly. Just curious about the bullet number 3, create opportunities. I'm wondering if there's a way to make that particular strategy a little bit more detailed so that when the schools do look at that type of a goal or that type of a strategy to achieve a goal, we have more consistency in the approach. Because, I agree that we do need to create opportunities for the community to become actively engaged. How or what kind of expectations there are around that? I'd like that to be more consistent and really driven from a district level, so that the schools that are able to go out and implement that again to get that consistency. And I think that's an area where we need to be more consistent.
Anyone else have anything? Mrs. Bush.
Also on board goal 1, something I was thinking the same thing as Mr. Houle was, that we need to have some kind of indicator that we are reaching out and we are able to partner with the families and everything. One thing that I have been, I'm the liaison to Northeast School, and something that keeps me very on top of things, keeps me engaged in the school is their Facebook page. And it gives me information, it gives me celebrations, it gives me some really good information to know that the good things that are happening within the school. And I'm not sure if all the schools are doing that, but I really appreciate it. I know that there are a lot of people on that page that are looking at the same stuff I am. And that's a great way to reach out to the families and the communities, and that's what's happening in these days. That's how people are doing a lot of communicating. But to know that today was the Northeast Schools fundraiser at 99. It was great to have that information, a reminder, and some of the positive things that I'm seeing on that. That is something that maybe not an exact strategy, but when we get the list of things that these schools are doing to make sure they're doing that, you might need to get lists of things that they're doing. I think it's for that one situation. I'm not on other school pages, but I would love to see something like that throughout the districts to inform the parents.
Mrs. Arndt, do you have any idea how well used email is between staff and parents?
I'm sorry, well used?
Well, is it used on a regular basis? Do teachers reach out and back and forth? I mean, is it something
That's
used
my
all the
understanding,
time?
is that they do that all the time.
Do students do that as well?
Email to teachers?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I would imagine if they're looking for homework and those kinds of things. Our parent portal, just as, since you open the door here, our parent portal, we're going live with the high school in another week or so. Students actually next week, is that right? Do you mind if I just ask? That's a better way to get information, and it also includes an email address. Do you mind if I ask, Ms. Arndt, do you mind if I ask Mr. Burt to just expand on my answer?
Of course.
Thank you.
Through the chair. We are looking probably tomorrow, the next day, getting our high school students on the student portal part of Aspen. And we are, the high school's working through a process to ensure that we have the accurate information for our parents. They're hopeful in the next couple weeks we can really start opening it up to parents. There's two different aspects to that, but there is a communication tool there. There's also things that we have to explore in terms of there's group pages. So our JV football team can have one, our debate team can have a big group page and start posting information instead of having an entirely separate system, with like Facebook trying to have, each one of those organizations have their own sort of Facebook type page, and then you'd have to subscribe to each one. We can automatically populate those groups, if you will, with students, and then they would, under their home tab would have those pages. So we're probably not going to fully implement that or fully take advantage of that, within the next few months, but it's something that's really got significant potential. In addition to seeing all test scores and your assignments and two-way communication, you can open up an assignment, a teacher can open an assignment for a Dropbox, if you will, that the student can directly put their assignment into the teacher's inbox, those type of things. So there's that kind of communication as well. Parents would have all their students listed, and then they can have access to the teacher email right there. Teachers have any kind of contact information for the students. They can automatically quickly just click on the link and it sends an email. Progress reports, you can generate them on the fly and email them out. So there's a lot of communication possibilities through Aspen that we're exploring.
It's a system that's in place in South Windsor, has been in place, and it has developed such a connection, exactly what you're talking about, not just the high school, it's K through 12. And parents know immediately where to go, what to look up, everything is accurate. It has fostered a connection to the schools, even though there's not a physical presence all the time. It is a connection to the school, and it pays off. So I'm hoping that we get this off the ground and expand it so that across the district parents can be involved.
One more thing along these lines of parents' involvement is that they can subscribe to emails for, say, attendance and grade alerts. So, it doesn't give you any information, it just says an attendance has been posted to your child's, file, and they can then log in and see it. So there's no, direct information in the email, or the grade has been posted, you can go look that up. So they can subscribe to that. We hope that would foster that communication, that if this grade is posted, or you can set a cut score of, anything below 80, so that parents can do this. Then they would get that email notification, then it would generate that conversation with teachers. The same thing for attendance, wait a second, I thought so-and-so was supposed to be at school today, or why are they, so it would generate, again, that conversation with the school. So we're hopeful with that as well.
Is the plan to expand it across the system?
The middle school, hopefully by the end of this week as well for students, and the same thing, same time frame for parents. It's just a matter of making sure that what we have in the system is valid. We don't want to open it up to folks that shouldn't have access to student information. That's our primary concern, is safety. Parents then, if they have a, I'm envisioning my own 13-year-old daughter asking her for a login information. I don't know how well that would work, but if the parents need to see the information, they can borrow their students for now. But I don't know how well that would work with my 13-year-old daughter, to be honest. But we should have family portal access. As soon as we get the information in, we can start opening it up.
And down to the elementary schools as well?
I think our plan for that, really because the middle school and high school are using the electronic grade books. So there's more of that information there for the teachers. At the elementary level, we're planning on doing a rollout more as we complete our standards-based report card over the next 6 months, and teaching teachers how to use that, because for the most part, from my understanding, not being an elementary teacher myself, that it's difficult to move off the paper grade book to an electronic one. That's my understanding. So we're going to be working with that and also transitioning to the standards-based report card all at the same time. So instead of asking them to do something they haven't done before this year, we were going to wait until we moved our curricula and our assessments and our new report card into the system in the next few months.
So that translates into what? Next year we may have K through 12?
Yes.
Okay. And it's more than just grades. You know, it's more than just grades and assignments. It's a connection, a true connection to the teacher and classroom, and to the school and the students to the teacher, the whole bit. I can't spout about it enough. Facebook is one thing, but this is a real connection right into the school.
I agree.
Okay, does anybody have anything else on the district improvement plan? Okay, we'll move on to item 5.3. Discussion on CABE's Lighthouse District Training Workshop.
If I could just speak for just a moment as you begin your discussion. We had a couple of board members who unfortunately were not able to make it to the meeting, so I gave them a version. I gave them the 2-page Lighthouse Conditions and Indicators overview, and then the condition tool that gave the overview. They don't have any page numbers on it. And then all of the graphs. So they didn't have, I didn't include the open-ended questions. I thought the graphs at this point were more important. They will have them in their binders, however. So they do have all of those graphs with the conditions and the questions organized by condition and then by beliefs. So board members do have that. We were able to send that out electronically to board members as well. So we do all have this. I think the homework was twofold. That was to discuss the meeting and also to start thinking about where the board might want to start the work.
Who would like to start? I mean, the bottom line is our last Lighthouse training, which was last week. Basically, the whole evening was spent going over the results of the surveys that were taken. Don't remember how many people now took the survey. I don't have that in front of me right now, but we were rather dismayed at how low our scores were. And they did share with us that we are the only district that has had low scores in all of the conditions. So it was a bit of a bummer. But it just, it should give us more resolve to do some more positive work and get moving. They did ask us to look for the most needy areas of improvement, and we kind of sat there and said, well, we need it in all of them. And they did suggest that we start with one or two and fix that first and then move on to the others. So the question is, what do the board members think, based on that survey, would be like our top priorities for our needs for improvement? Michelle, will start with you.
I did give it a lot of thought, Ann, and I thought it would be helpful to communication and helpful to define what we want communicated and how we want that communicated. I think sometimes in an effort to communicate, we get information that, in my opinion, I could do without, but I feel that I've missed information in other areas that I would appreciate. So I think if the board can agree about what they'd like communicated and how they'd like it communicated, that would help us be on the same page. And the survey results proved that we're just not. I believe we'd like to be, but we're not. So when I had to boil it down, you had asked us one main goal. That was hard because of our survey results. But for me, it came down to communicating.
what they thought might be as I say, there were many needs. Thomasina.
There was many needs, but as Mrs. Arn said, it stuck out with me, you know, the difference, the range, I'm sorry, I gotta get used to this, the range of like understanding, whether it's communication or what, but we need to try to do something to everyone to be on the same page, understand what it is, what it's all about.
A perfect example was the results in the professional development. How teachers, what their higher numbers were, that they didn't think the PDs were worthwhile, which, you know, maybe, I'm sure that's what they feel, but do they really believe that when the coaches come in or when they do curriculum that is a PD? And they may not realize that it's a PD. So that is communication too, that's true. Anyone else have anything? Mrs. Bush.
I would also agree, and that was on my mind, that communication is the key here, and getting our message out, making sure that what is communicated to the parents and the teachers and the students is consistent with our goals.
Anyone else?
I just think, you know, one of the things that I recall from the evening is that they indicated that normally the communications is typically the lowest area, and we actually had an area that was a little bit lower, that I believe it was the connections across the district were actually lower than the communications, which they thought was extremely unusual because, you know, again, things going on, everybody's usually plugged in. So yeah, I'm not sure, Michelle, if some of what you're mentioning with the communication is not only communication outward to the public, but inwards across the district to help with both that connections across the district and the communication objectives. They are similar, but they were rated differently in the survey. The survey was specific to district information, and the communications was specific to, you know, kind of that outside link. And I just found that interesting that, you know, our inner connections were actually rated lower than the outside.
I thought we needed to be a little more specific even in that I think we have to set the example by being clear about what it is we would like to communicate and how we would like it communicated. And then when the board functions better in their communication between and among ourselves, from the administration to us, then that would help improve communication beyond the board. And since this was a board professional development endeavor, I was thinking more in those terms. Like, I know what the survey results said, but to me it still came down to, if we communicate better, we are clear about what it is we want to know and how we want to know it, in what time, in what fashion and all, then we get used to communicating that way, administration gets used to communicating that way, and that ripples out and affects within the district, and information going out as well as information coming in. So to me it's a baby step, very narrow and clear objective that will eventually ripple out and affect within the district as well. So if we adopt a better communication policy, then it can only benefit everyone that we communicate with.
Yeah, I think that we really need to communicate as part of that, to convey to the staff and the school, everybody in the school system, the sense of urgency for improvement, because I'm not sure that we're there yet. And I think the teachers need to believe in their true value, and they need to know that they are the most important factor in our students' success. And I'm not sure they believe that either. That's something that needs to come from us as well. Right, absolutely. Does anybody else have anything to add? Mr. Kemp?
Yeah, well, I'll also say, at least this board is going through all of this. I don't know if there's any other active boards going, active Lighthouse Project meetings going on in the entire state. And the last one that the facilitator said they did was Norwich, which was at least a year and a half ago, right? Okay, so when the statement was made, the scores are low, yes, but that's relative because nobody else has done it. And so at least we're examining ourselves, and under the current climate of all of the evaluations and Common Core and all of that coming forward in the past year and change, the results, although we're not happy with them, are not surprising either. But I wouldn't, I'm glad there's not a reporter here at this point, because he might have picked up on the term lower, and certainly there was no one else that's been doing this. So I think, to our credit, we're examining ourselves very completely, I think.
Mrs. Bush?
Just to add what Mr. Kemp is saying, there has not been many boards that have gone through this process as well. There's only been a handful in the state that have gone through the Lighthouse process, which is quite an intense process of PD, professional development, for our own board. We're now, I think, realizing the value of it as the meetings are going on, and we're experiencing a little bit of angst because of some of the survey results and things like that, but that's all in the process of betterment across the board. And I just want to stress the importance of going through this whole process and the different modules that we're seeing. And this one was probably the most eye-opening with the data that we were given and the survey results and things like that. But I think the process we're going through is going to make us a more effective board.
Did anybody else have anything else to add? Mr. Hope?
Just a final comment. Do we need to agree tonight what we want to have the team come back with for next, or are we going to make that decision at the next meeting?
I don't know I don't think you have to agree tonight. Our next meeting is after the 14th. So I'll be back in touch with Mr. Caruso to find out what their expectations are. It sounds like the board in your discussion has certainly honed in on condition 1 and condition 6, and more condition 6 as an external, and then condition 1 as an internal means of communication. So I think the board has pretty much come together around that, so I'll share that with him, and he probably doesn't need any more than that. I think it probably doesn't make a difference to them which indicator they're going to facilitate the boards moving forward, is my guess. I've never gone through it before, but that's my guess.
Thank you. I think that's a good assessment.
Okay, anyone else? All right, well, thank you very much. And now we move on to item 5.4. School year 2014 ending year-to-date summary. Carl?
Through the chair. Tonight we're pleased to report to the board that we ended fiscal year 14 on a positive financial note with a little less than 0.2% of our total appropriated budget remaining. The way of background, and as you know, this was not an easy outcome for us to achieve. However, with the board support, in particular our school support, we were able to successfully manage our way through a challenging fiscal year by implementing a hard budget freeze, aggressive cost-saving measures, working closely with the town finance office, and implementing new business systems and process changes. In addition, for fiscal year 14, the board implemented new budget transfer and amendment policies and procedures. These new policies and procedures resulted in a total of 141 budget transfers and amendments totaling $1,800,596.11. As we begin our planning for next fiscal year,
our budget planning. We will use this data in the development of our proposed budget, and we will provide you with a budget variance analysis report of our major accounts. At our recent Finance Committee meeting, and as reported at the last Board of Ed meeting, we shared additional details about our final fiscal year ending 14 financial obligations, purchases, and potential strategies for any remaining balance. Since then, and in discussion with the town, we are ready this evening to propose for the board's consideration that the board request of the town council and the mayor, through the superintendent, to deposit the total remaining balance of our fiscal year 14 budget to be deposited into our education capital and non-reoccurring account. There's just one caveat for discussion, but not for a motion this evening. We came to that recommendation with the understanding that should we receive the school security grant of the second round of funding that we've applied for, in the total amount of $192,291.20, that the entire local match requirement of $54,245.35 would be borne by the board and would come out of our capital non-recurring account from those funds. Should we not receive the grant, the funds would still remain in our capital non-recurring account for us to use on our important capital projects. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Madam Chair, for questions.
Mr. Gould.
I'd like to put that in the official form of a motion that the Vernon Board of Education direct the superintendent to request the town council through the mayor that the entire amount of the balance of the board's fiscal year 2014 estimate of expenditures be placed into the education capital and non-recurring fund.
Mr. Colina. Okay, discussion, questions, comments? So this is in lieu of the town paying half, money's just going in a different direction.
Correct.
All right, no other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5.5, reports from the Board of Education liaisons regarding attendance at organizations and committee meetings. Anybody have anything to report? Mr. Kim? Ms. Bush?
I attended the CAVE Board of Directors meeting where we were able to speak with the State Board of Education, including the Commissioner. We had, I think, 4 members of the State Board of Education there, and we were able to ask some of our questions, and it was very enlightening, but at this point, with our Commissioner kind of in a lame duck situation, it was more of a relaxed situation, and I didn't feel that there was a lot of questions for or answers from our Commissioner, because he's basically moving on. So not a lot of meat was in that meeting, but I did go, I did listen, and I don't really have a lot to report. So.
Mrs. Art?
I'm the liaison to Skinner Road School again this year, and last year the board very kindly stepped up and supported their mixed bags fundraiser by taking bags and filling them for a raffle. And because the board seemed to be pretty open to that, I volunteered to. I was inspired by their evening. They do a. It's not a fundraiser. It's an activity, a family activity, once a month. And they ask a grade level to be responsible for that activity. And they're doing things like a movie night. They're doing reading books in your jammies and served cocoa. Several other things. And I thought this board might like to help sponsor or participate in the karaoke evening. They were looking for some. So if none of you want to do that, if you will, you don't have to sing. You just have to. I don't know what you have to do. But they were very enthusiastic, and I didn't. And they even said how it was so wonderful that the board helped us out last year. And I was not going to say, well, that was a one-time, don't forget it. So I said, sure, we'd be happy to do that. So if none of you want to do it, I'm on the hook and I will do it. But it's in March. It's at the school. You can sing or not sing. You can be creative. You can lip sync. You can wear full costume. I actually thought that it would be fun if Mrs. Fisher and Tommy and I were the three women from Mamma Mia, and we did that 1970s version. No, there are a number of ways that we could participate, but I didn't want to say no to them because we kind of set the precedent and set the, yeah. But if you don't want to do it, but you don't care that I do, then I will.
We'll see what March brings.
Well, no, it's a good do it.
I mean, I'll step up if my calendar is free. Mr. Kemp, would you like to join me in a karaoke?
See,
There are children in the school system.
The PTO really ran with this idea, and they said, if you're going to do that, we're selling tickets. It's not a fundraiser, but if you guys are going to do that, we'll sell tickets. And you can imagine how Sandy Simon was all over that as a fundraiser. It's just a chance to have, it's really for the kids, and the kids enjoy watching the adults make fools of themselves.
Did they actually set the date in March, or is just that's just the month of March?
It will be March. I have to check. It would be a Friday evening. They do these things on a Friday night. If you'd like to let me know when you're not available, absolutely not available or whatever. But I would need to pick a Friday night and get on. They have one calendar in the office that they work off of. So a Friday in March.
Does anybody else have anything to report? Yeah, I don't know, but we might as well stop now. David.
I attended the CREC directors meeting. It was my first meeting in, representing Vernon there. And it's interesting how they operate, to say the least. But part of the meeting had an opportunity to take into consideration what each person in the room thought the new commissioner's skill sets might be. Everything from a background in education, communicating well, and so on. Kind of reminiscent of some of our workshops on what we would want a superintendent to possess. It's basically the same thing of what the various members thought the new commissioner should possess. So that was a big piece of the meeting. From the meeting, I brought some collaterals for the superintendent, which are some brochures and pamphlets that thoroughly describe the programs that CREC offers to its member districts. And apparently Vernon does send different staff members to some of the modules that they put on, or academies, or whatever the word is, and seminars from time to time, whether it's in science or special ed or whatever focus area. They don't lack for money in their advertising budget, I can tell you that. This is one publication. Mary has another one, and it's, you know, multiple colored pages of just more and more information that you would just not believe. But they have a page about Vernon in one of their brochures. I'd like to share with you how they are helping us cut costs. I'll just read these two lines to you. CREC absorbed about $3.2 million in magnet school pre-K tuition costs in fiscal year 13-14, which were the responsibility of the sending districts. For Vernon, that resulted in a savings of $43,000. So I just say, wasn't that nice of them? You know, but so they spend money to tell us what they're doing to us, which is the money we sent to them. Anyway, I have an appointment with their budget director to understand the format of the data that they share with us, which we'll share with Michael, and he and I will compare notes. He doesn't know this yet, but we will compare notes as to their format of recording financial information versus how we would expect to see it as a member board, looking at the operation of a large organization. But I have been doing some reading of their that they have published, and I can tell you that they are no small outfit. They have a total of, dramatic pause here, I just want to tell you how many people they have. They have 2,350 employees and a budget of over 500 million. It's a big, I'll go over with you next time I talk about this, the number of buildings that have just recently been completed, are being completed, or will be completed in the next few years in the immediate region, and the dollars that each of those buildings are costing. It is staggering. Hundreds of millions of dollars in construction have and are being put into place. So I want you to know what those figures consist of, but not this evening. Thank you.
Anybody else have anything to report? I attended Center Road School's PTO meeting, and since we have two Center Road parents, you can correct me if I make any mistakes here. The results of their summer reading program, they had 87% of the students participate, which is an increase from the last couple of years, which is great. They were very happy about that. The fifth graders are participating in a program called Discovery Center, which teaches via a proactive approach students to be respectful. The program provides up to 5 sessions. Center Road will participate in 3, 2 of which were funded by a donation, and the third is paid for by the school activity account. They have this new app that parents are, and I didn't quite get all this, it's called the Dojo app. And it's, there's an avatar for each student, and it's all about behavior, and the teachers can input it into the whatever, and they monitor the child's behavior. The students earn rewards, and the parents can go on to this app and see how their children are doing every day. And each child starts new each day. But they said those that are using it, they are loving it. The kids think it's fun and whatever. They are looking for one more parent to join their school governance council, and they need some more members on their Safe Routes to School committee. And the last thing is the mural in the library that we approved is not complete yet, but it is beautiful. They are, I don't know how far through it, but it looks really great. So the library, I hope when it's all done that they'll have a ribbon cutting or something, because it would be great to go see it. And that was in Mary Jo Myslinski's memory. So that's all I have for that. Anybody else have anything? Okay, we move on to item 5.5A. We need a motion to go into executive session and invite Dr. Conway and Mrs. Buell.
So moved.
Is there a second? Mrs. Bush?
Second.
All those in favor? It's unanimous.
On the side, on the right-hand side.
All set. You're back.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion? Mr. Hu?
In motion that the board approve the Vernon School Administrator Association contract as mediation pending ratification by the union.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Polino. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion. Wait, 3.
I was in favor.
David had his hand up twice. Which one?
holding my motion while I voted.
So that was in favor? Sorry. Okay, motion carries. Okay. Item 5.6, I would make a request that we put that after 6.0 and 7.0. Is that all right? Okay, so 6.0, to review and update the Board of Education calendars. Anybody have any changes to the calendar?
Can I ask a question about something that was on the calendar?
Sure.
On Maple Street School's calendar for 10-2, they had something called Parents as Partners. Do you know what that is? It sounded intriguing to me.
Crash. I know Parents as Partners is a training that goes through the Family Resource Center, so it could be that, but it also could be something new. Mrs. Buell, do you know if there's...
I think you're right. The only other option is preschool training, but I think you're right.
It's a
It was-
program.
It was 8:15 a.m. to 6 p.m. I thought that was pretty, and Parents as Partners just sounds like something right up our, what we've been talking about.
I will check and get back to you and make sure what that is.
Okay.
That was Maple Street, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions on the calendar? All right, item 7.0, opportunity for questions from the press. So now we need a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Houle?
Motion to go into executive session for discussion of superintendent evaluation.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. We will move into the live